You know, I said this in my video. This is obviously, you guys designed this. It's a cinema camera. Why has Sony only given us 1.3x and 1.5x anamorphic D-squeeze? Now, I got to talk. We got to get a little juicy here with the questions because I know people are going to ask, how come you didn't talk about open gate? I know people are going to ask that. So what's up, everybody? I'm here with a special guest, Jie, who is the product manager of the Sony FX line. And I want to thank you, Jie, for driving down to the Condor Blue Studios, because I know it's quite a drive. I appreciate you coming out here and discussing more about the FX2, because I think it's a really hot topic.
Yes,
so
100%.
I made a video about this camera. If you guys want to watch it, there'll be a link down below. But yeah, let's talk about this camera. Again, there's a lot of confusion about this camera in terms of who this camera is for. A lot of people are saying this camera is for content creators. Obviously, I was part of the Sony briefing, but I want people to hear from the horse's mouth. So it's like, who is this camera for? Why did Sony make this camera? Because for me, it seems like such a strange camera where it belongs, and maybe there's more clarity. So
so let me explain the market a little bit, right? I think like since the YouTube became popular, the COVID is changing, the creator economy became a new topic. There's so many content creators purchase the camera is the main driving force of the cinema line. As you know, I know you, FX3 is so popular among the creators world. And on these particular cameras, and definitely it's a cinema line first, right? I know a lot of creators use the cinema line, but the cinema line only, the creator is only a portion of the customer of the cinema line. They're different. Like for example, even though when you look at these cameras, you can think of, hey, how can you use this one with Venus or Browner, like for example. But actually, for example, our current FX3 and FX3 and FX30 have done some limitation to work with the Cine Alta. Like for example, I'm working with a DP who is going to shooting a Super 35 format with Browner and Venus, and he needs some crash cam. And at the current lineup, we don't have a solution for them. Because the FX3, when you use the Super 35 mode, is going to HD. And when you use FX30 shooting as a Super 35 mode, and it will become kind of lower ISO at the 2300, and doesn't match the dynamic range with the Venus Burano, create a little bit more issue.
Isn't it like 2-stop difference between the 30 and the Burano?
Yes, 30 and the Burano is about 2-stop different, and this camera is only 1-stop.
Got it. So it's, you know, I was talking to a friend of mine who's also a DP, and we had this conversation because when you look at it, again, even myself, and by the way, my opinion is not changing. You know, I don't want people to think like, oh, Sony's coming here.
No, I'm not here to change your opinion at all.
My opinion's not changing, but it's a very strange where this sits, because of course you've got the FX30, which is, in my opinion, the gateway, right? The entry where it's like people get excited. It's a, when I say low price, I don't mean like it's still cheap. Obviously, these cameras, you know, everybody's budgets are different, but it's your entry point to the Sony Cine line, right? Then you have the FX3, which is obviously going to get you closer to the FX6, right? And I like how he put it, right? I want to use his analogy. He said, actually, it's funny. There's a ruler here. He's like, every camera, the Cine line is like, they're like an inch apart, right? You've got the FX30, which is about an inch apart from the FX3, which is another inch apart from the FX6, and so on and so forth, right? This one is like a 1/4 inch, right? And I think that's really the confusion as to why Sony made this camera, right? And also too, why the A7 IV sensor? I think people want to know that.
So basically, I think FX30 is a great starting point for the filmmakers. It have all the filmmaker features, 4K 120, and the amazing performance, great picture quality, and you got everything, right? However, it have a little bit limitation of photo functionality. You can only take a single photo, you cannot use flash. But you know, we all know that more and more people became hybrid. And the people taking photo and video all the time together, and the photographers starting to take video, and also all the videographers take more and more photos. That's the reasons actually we see a lot of the application people carry 2 cameras, and we see actually people carrying FX6 with A7 IV. We see like people like actually some wedding photographer even bring one of the A7 IV and one of the FX30 with them, one for photo, one for video. So there definitely that's a combination, that's enough application who will appreciate cinematic style video at high quality and also a great photo functionality.
This definitely feels reverse of what like most hybrid mirrorless cameras are. Like they're very photo focused first with incredible video features, where this feels the opposite. You've got an incredible video camera that has photo features, and I think that's where the wires are getting crossed.
Yes, you nailed it. Actually, I think that's a lot of time people got confusion about that. Is this one is a cinema line camera first. It's focused on the video production. That's the reason actually when we designed it, it needed to matching the Venus and the Bruno with the intercut, no issue at all, right? So that's actually answer your question why the sensor. Right, because we need a high dimension sensor to matching the Venus and the Brunos. Number one, we want to choose a sensor that almost matching the dynamic range and also the picture performance of that. And that particular sensor meeting the requirement.
Right.
At the same time, as you explained, this almost like a new concept is a cinema camera can take amazing photos. As a result, the photo resolution is also a consideration. And one of the things like think about the set photography. Do you know what's the most popular camera on the set photography?
I have no idea. Probably maybe a A7 IV?
No, what's a good light camera that can take good photos?
A7S III probably.
Yes, actually you nailed it. Actually, A7S III is the number one set photography.
That's crazy.
Cameras.
I would have never known that. Yeah.
Just think of that. There's a need, even though their creators use A7S for creating social media content, but actually some of the professionals use that one for photo functionality.
Interesting.
So we can see a lot of in the movie set, actually people maybe gonna prefer to use this one because it will take a better video and even can matching the movie set if you apply the LUT.
Interesting. Now, I want to talk about the EVF because that was an interesting choice, I have to say. Personally, I see the benefits of an EVF. I don't want to dismiss, and I even said it in my video. There's going to be people that are going to like it. In fact, even holding it, and I used it. Oh, I even told you, off camera, I was like, I like the EVF, but there's one thing I do wish that the EVF would be able to do, and that's why didn't you guys make it removable? Like, as a consumer, my first initial thought was, I think the price is fair, but I also feel like if I'm paying for something that I'm not going to use, I would have gladly wanted this camera price maybe $300 cheaper on something that, I'm not going to use this, but I'm paying for this.
Yes.
What was the reasoning of making the EVF non-detachable?
Yeah, generally, no, accessory is a good thing, right? Help people to doing the thing, but it really depends on the position of the camera. Like for example, the cinema camera, Venus, Bruno, the EVS always been sold as additional attachment. However, at more entry-level cameras, people looking for wall-style application. That means they can just pick up, directly use it without connecting and everything. And I know your background from DP. We are also used to do connect everything, build up to whatever we want to build, right?
Legos, right?
Yes, but really depends on the application. And what we believe for the entry-level filmmakers, they will prefer with the built-in viewfinders. And especially consider the application set photography. Right. And they will prefer the viewfinder. And also I tell you the story of the top DP and doing the location scout with this camera, right? And in the past, and there's a little bit pain point because they have to use FX3 or the FX30. It does not have a viewfinder. And at a very bright environment, it will be very hard to see it from a small screen. And you can, of course, have a bigger screen. That means you're more attachment, you're going to carry more stuff, power supply. Now it became a team, not only one or two people. Right. Now with this one, you can just apply a LUT, and even when you go to the location, you are not sure which LUT you're going to use. You can have 4 or 5 pre-built LUT. When you go there, change the LUT, you know exactly what it looks like. That's just an example of the high-end applications, right? And for example, I'm a photographer. And one of the things and I take a lot of micro shot. And I need to go into the floor and point to the bug all the time. And this kind of designs are very, very useful, right? So basically when we design that, we are not only designed for one purpose, we are more thinking about how we can make it easier for everybody.
Ease of use, I understand. And again, I will say though, after playing with it here and using it, I do like the EVF a lot. My initial thought was what is this? And I, playing with it, I'm like, I do like it. I still wish it would have been removable, but I understand what you know Sony's point of view.
But the one thing I want to get your opinion, right? Because I know you're a DP, you worked with all the top high-end cinema camera before.
Right.
What do you think of the view experience from this one compared to the normal IOC cameras?
I mean, I like it. It's really, really nice. Again, I think this is one of those. I hate to say this, you're gonna have to try it in person to really, and I think this is another reason why I wanted to make this video, because I think a lot of opinions get skewed, especially when you don't have the camera physically, you know, in the hand and play with it. I think this happened a lot. I don't even know if you remember this, but the EOS R was one of those cameras that was like a wildfire for Canon, especially because it had a crop and all that. And I was an advocate. I actually bought that camera and told people, like, you have to use this camera to understand like how good it is. And I do think that this is one of those situations. I'm talking about the EVF here, where the EVF, where you have to actually, like, you know, feel it, touch it, look through it, and see, like, I like this. But again, my positioning on being removable, I would have liked
100%.
I understand it's more for entry level, but I would have liked to remove it just for even storing it in like a backpack or, you know, Pelican case. I just feel like adding that extra width, you know.
But 100%.
But I totally understand. I do like this new.
And one question I want to ask you is, would you like a removable viewfinder on the FX3 and the FX30?
Would I like a removable viewfinder? Sure. Yeah,
maybe like that's one good idea.
Yeah, I mean, that would be neat. That would be a nice little upgrade for those other cameras. But I do like this new design that you guys have gone with this camera. Obviously, better fans.
Yep.
Is this something that we could expect from like maybe future FX series line, like this body design with this, you know?
So like I think you understand Sony Cinema line a lot, and currently Sony Cinema line, there's a little bit disconnect between each lineup, right? From the Brownell winners to the FX6, FX9, not quite the same, the manual operating system, right? Workflow is the same, but the menu is a little bit different. When we step into the FX3 and the FX6, the menu system changing again. Right. So now the menu system is similar enough, most people can get what they found, but it's still a learning curve. And the goal for us for the future is we really want to unify the menu system, the operation, the experience, and even for the people who can early access the more advanced menu system. For example, this camera have the Big 6.
I like that. I really love that.
Which is the menu system on the Venus and the Brownell, right? Now you have a Venus simulator in your hand.
I know. I love that.
Right? So like even though you cannot play with the Venus, you can kind of have a little bit experience of that, right? And I would say that will be the...
Is that menu system, will that be going over to the FX3, FX30?
FX3 and FX6, and later this summer we'll receive firmware update. After our firmware update, and you will receive the Big 6 menu.
Nice,
great, and FX6.
Great. Well, you know, one of the things that, you know, I want to talk about, since we're speaking about firmware updates, is, you know, I said this in my video. This is obviously, you guys designed this. It's a cinema camera first, and then photo later. As somebody who uses, you know, we use anamorphic lenses and you know, other stuff. Why has Sony only given us 1.3x and 1.5x anamorphic D-squeeze? Is that something like, what's the reasoning behind that? Are we going to get more in the future? Or?
Yes. So first of all, on the FX3 and the FX30, we already announced the firmware update road plan. And I think in the summertime, you will receive firmware update. We will support 1.5.
Nice.
I think for now, this camera only supports 1.3 and 2.0. I think it's just a firmware thing. And down the road, I'm not surprised this camera will receive some firmware support more like a
or more anamorphic. Right. Oh, well, if you guys can, this is more of a request. And I think a lot of people agree with me. If there's a way that you can enter your own value, rather than making it like 1.3, 1.5, 2.0, just you can enter if you want 1.7 and just enter your own value. And I think that would probably solve a lot of these
100%.
headaches.
Yes.
Now I got to talk, we got to get a little juicy here with the questions, because I know people are going to ask, how come you didn't talk about Open Gate? I know people are going to ask that. So I do want to talk about Open Gate and why, first of all, why hasn't Sony implemented Open Gate on other cameras? And I don't even know if you can answer this, but if like, is is there a possibility that we'll see that in future Sony cameras?
So basically, there are two major benefits of the open gate. Number one is anamorphic application.
Right.
Number two will be the social media application with the 2-frame crop.
Right.
So I think like at the Sony, especially on the cinema line, we definitely see the value of the open gate in the anamorphic support. That's the reason all our Cine Alta cameras have the open gate.
Right.
That we can use a PL mount, accept all the anamorphic lens in the market.
Right.
So however, on the social media, on the level, and I know a lot of people doing that,
right?
But maybe there's a better alternative, or there's other way to do it. Because for example, and how many people really need a 6K recording and crop into 4K?
I mean, if we're being honest, probably not very many.
Not very many.
Yeah.
Right? It's like I would say like the open gate thing in Sony's aspect is really fulfill your want or provide what you need.
Right.
And at the Sony, and what we more look at is we will provide what you really need for the job, and that's the number one priority. We need to fulfill the professional users' need.
Gotcha. Okay, and does that mean because this is targeted for cinema, and because cinema, like you mentioned, Alta or Cine Alta, like they have open gate? Is that maybe a possibility that later down the road these cameras will get a firmware update?
That's definitely a possibility, right? At right now, I don't have too much information.
Gotcha.
Right?
And that's fair.
And regarding on the anamorphic on this level camera, and there's a lot of E-mount entry-level anamorphic lens on the market now, right? So I think like they will cover some of the need of that. And also like it really depends on the future development. If we can definitely see more and more FX line of work with Cine Alta, definitely I'm not surprised to see we will release something. But right now, I don't have information to confirm.
This FX2 launch, again, still strange to me because it almost feels like I almost wish that, I mean, I think we're a lot of people are going to agree with me here. We've all been waiting for the FX3 Mark II.
That's right.
We want that the next evolution of that camera, and I get it. It's an FX2, not FX4 or whatever, right? It's like I don't want to call it a step backwards, but it's a numerical backwards, and we were all expecting something different.
Yes.
And I think I mean the competition is fierce, right? And I know that your guys' position has always been different. Yes. You're not trying to chase what other people are doing. You guys are doing your own thing, which is respectable. And I think that's why people love a lot of Sony cameras. I've been a fan of Sony for we've known each other for many years. Yes. But yeah, I think the general consensus is like, I want the FX3 Mark II.
100%.
Yeah.
So let me explain like the current confusion a little bit. I think the rumor caused a lot of trouble, right?
I hate rumors.
So and I think like one of the big things the rumor misses huge is the price.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And obviously, like if this camera as the rumors at 3,500, even myself, I don't believe it's a great camera.
Right.
But at the current price that we are announced, I believe it's a very, very great camera. Right. And that's the thing. The cinema line is generally always priced higher compared to the Alpha.
Right.
The reason of that is as a professional lineup, generally we hold the value much longer compared to the consumer.
Which, by the way, that's a good thing because as an owner, you don't want to buy something and then 6 months later, and I don't want to throw another company under the bus. There's actually several companies that do this.
Yep.
You'll buy a camera in 6 months. Even I think this recently one, it was like 6 months later, they drop significantly in price. As somebody who's buying this, I mean, I don't look at these as, I guess some of them can look at it as an investment because you are making money. Yeah. You don't want to lose money. So I do value that in Sony is that they keep their price. I mean, the FX3 has not dropped in price since its inception.
Do you still remember the launch price?
Yeah, there was at 3,800, 3,900.
3,899.
Yeah, it's still that price today.
3,899, right? Because we wanted the professional when they purchase, and they can hold their investment, and they can get the money back as soon as possible, right? That's number one thing on the cinema line. And for as we explained, when we launch this one, we are not really replace any current model, right? We are not like launching a brand new thing. It's more like a kind of a new start point for the future filmmakers, that it's easier for them to go into the cinematic look productions, right? And
I mean, I've sold people this. Again, this camera's not for me, but just because it's not for me doesn't mean it doesn't fit, somebody else. Obviously, you guys have the data.
Yeah.
You guys know. Obviously, you guys have more information on who you guys can market this. So I'm sure this camera will do well despite its criticism. And again, I'm not dismissing myself. I've criticized this camera. You watch the video.
I watch every single your video.
I've criticized, but that doesn't matter what I say. It's the person that wants this style of camera. And I even talked amongst my friends and people, like, if I didn't own a Sony camera and I was looking to get into the FX line, I'd probably buy this one. But as somebody who's owned the FX3, the 6 or whatever, like this camera doesn't fit for me. But just because it doesn't fit for me doesn't mean that there's no market for it.
So I think like that, you perfectly nailed it, right? For the first time buyer who want to go into the FX lab, because like how is the reputation? Durable, high quality, and everything built-in fans, Cine, everything.
Yeah, I put my FX3 like through extreme weather conditions. I mean, I beat the thing hell and back, and it never failed, not once.
Yes, so that's the sense that people still want to go in there. But as if the people is a first-time buyer, that probably this one is the best balanced camera that people can buy, right? Because of course, if you have money going to the FX3, but you won't have an amazing photo experience, right? Because the resolution is so low, and if you want to go work with the Super 35, now you have to go for the HD. And for the people who don't familiar with the movie industry, even today, the movie industry, a huge portion of the video is shot on the Super 35mm lens.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
there's so many classic Super 35mm anamorphic lens in the market, right? And this camera will provide a better entry for the future filmmakers. And the FX30, and some people love it. The people love it about the price, but people really hope they can have more photo capability because hybrid became a day-to-day norm, right?
Yeah, this is great, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit with me. Also, I want to kind of leave this discussion open. If you guys want, maybe we can meet up in the future. If you guys have any questions for Jie, I would love to do this again.
Yes.
We chatted so much before this, if you want to call it, I guess we can call it a podcast, a mini podcast.
Pretty much.
One thing I would like to see though is, and maybe we can do this together, as I mentioned earlier, is taking this camera and putting it side by side, maybe in a couple scenarios against the Venice. I think that would be something, this is one of the things, like you've seen my videos.
Yeah.
One of the things I always love to do is whenever a new camera comes out, either shoot a short or something to really show the strengths and the capability of a camera.
Yep.
Obviously, those videos get expensive, so I kind of stopped doing those. From time to time, we'll throw one out there, but that is something that I would like to do if you guys are open for that.
Yeah, no problem, no problem at all. And I think like many people maybe don't know, at Sony we have a facility called the Digital Media Production Center at LA. Actually, it's more like a showroom for high-end cinema camera and everything. And we can definitely set up a time. Maybe we can go there, do some comparison shot.
Great, let's do that. So if you guys have any questions for Jie, maybe as we're setting up these shots, we can answer some questions. I'll be probably popping in on the comment section down below. But again, Jie, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. And
thank you.
Sony's not mad at me, at least not right now. And I'm just kidding. All right, man.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.